November 2012. After crossing the solar system's boundary that is known as heliopause, within 2 to 3 months, NASA's Voyager 1 space probe started picking up some very strange sounds. Interestingly, these weird sounds were only to increase exponentially within the next few months. It almost sounded like something is trying to warn Voyager 1 to stop advancing and return home, or there will be consequences. However, Voyager 1 travels at the speed of around 60,000 kilometers per hour, which is twice the speed of a rocket, so it was quite impossible for the Voyager 1 to stop, and it kept advancing into the interstellar space or medium. Fast forward to 2017, after 5 years, Voyager 1 again picked up a very strange sound with the same range, that is 2 to 3 kilohertz. This time, the sound that the Voyager 1 picked up was more like a hum that kept on continuously going without stopping or distorting, kind of like a final warning to the Voyager 1 to stop and return home. But as the Voyager 1 could not stop, it still kept advancing into the space. After it kept advancing into the interstellar space for a few more years, in May 2022, NASA stated that Voyager 1 has stopped communicating its actual location to the Earth. Does this mean that the Voyager 1 has been captured by someone, or is it likely that the Voyager 1 has been destroyed, or simply it cannot transmit the data to us anymore? Which one of these reasons is most likely to be true? Well, let's find out. Let's dive into the past, shall we? In year 1963, a young graduate student interning at the NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory calculated that if we want to send a spacecraft into a deep space or interstellar space, we will need great speed, which cannot be achieved with the resources and technology that we have. But what we can do to gain that speed is that we can use the gravity of the planets in our solar system to push the spacecraft like a slingshot in our desired direction. This concept in itself was a very important breakthrough, and with this application, humanity could reach and tap into the sheer darkness of the space. Few years later, another visionary from the JPL took this idea forward and calculated that in the early 1980s, the planets in our solar system are going to align in such an order that would help the said spacecraft to use their gravity as a slingshot to push itself into the desired direction. However, the problem was that such an event was about to happen in a few years. Planetary alignments like this are very rare, and it could have taken 4 to 5 decades for the planets to align in the same way again. That is why whatever had to happen now, as this was paramount for the mission to succeed. Along with the effective and timely execution was equally important. NASA wasted no time and the scientists worked tirelessly. NASA developed 2 identical space probes, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which were actually lighter than a mid-sized sedan. A golden record was put on these probes for the unlikely event of the Voyager being captured by the aliens. Along with that, these probes were equipped with 16 plutonium-powered thrusters, 3 stability gyroscopes, and many gravity, radiation, and magnetic field measuring devices. It was very important for the slingshot maneuver to go perfectly, so everything was calculated down to the finest of details, and the Voyager was launched in the year 1977, just a few years before the planets were to align perfectly in a line. In the coming years, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 carried out their respective missions effectively. Their purpose was to give us a closer look at the planets in our solar system and provide us all the information regarding these planets that could be gathered by these probes with their limited abilities. In 1978, Voyager 1 began its Jovian imaging mission, and at the same time it was approximately 265 million kilometers from Earth. It took a whopping 3,750 images of Jupiter rotations. It also discovered 2 new moons of Jupiter, along with countless other discoveries. Voyager 1, both the Voyagers served their purpose inside our solar system, which gave us that amount of information that we never could have gathered without these 2 probes in forms of number and pictures. However, after the solar system was studied, Voyager 1 and 2 were directed to explore the interstellar space in different directions. If we look into the details, this could be the reason for the malfunctioning of the Voyager 1. What happens is that our sun releases ionized or plasma-filled gases in every direction. These gases are extremely warm and are called solar winds. These winds travel towards the edge of the solar system with supersonic speeds. However, the interstellar space that is outside our solar system isn't as empty as we might think it is. It contains huge amounts of gas and dust particles, and these particles oppose the solar wind particles when they leave the solar system, which creates a boundary and a bubble around the solar system. However, this only slows down and does not stop the solar winds. In order to completely slow down and stop the movement, solar winds need to cross the heliosheet. This creates another bubble that is called the heliosphere, which is boundary is heliopause. So when a spacecraft crosses the heliopause, only then can we say that it has now entered the interstellar space. In case of Voyager 1, this happened in 2012, and only after a few months it started transmitting these weird sounds and later started malfunctioning. Does this mean that as soon as the Voyager 1 crossed the heliopause, it was captured by an alien civilization? It is totally possible, but it's not very likely. If we talk about space, we know that space does not have sound, and sound requires a medium to travel, and space does not have any such medium. So all the sounds that the Voyager 1 is transmitting to us are not sound at all. In actuality, the low-frequency hums captured by the Voyager 1 were actually the noise of the solar system orbiting through the Milky Way galaxy. To make it simple, when a car moves forward at a high speed, there is an engine sound. But apart from the engine noise, there is also the sound that is created when the car pierces through the air as it moves forward. Similarly, our solar system is orbiting the Milky Way galaxy's supermassive black hole, Sagittarius E, at the speed of sound. We might not feel this because of the magnitude of the solar system. As the solar system moves through the Milky Way galaxy, it cuts through the gases and the dust particles in the interstellar space. This creates enormous amounts of heat due to the pressure and friction. This temperature is so great that it instantly ionizes the dust particles, creating a turbulent hot plasmid region called bow shock. Think of Voyager 1 exiting the region as a mic that is slid out of the window of a fast-moving car. As in the case of a car and mic, the turbulent air around the car could be heard. Similarly, in the case of Voyager 1, the turbulent charged plasma creates electromagnetic waves. Voyager 1 sent these electromagnetic waves to NASA, which was then converted to the sound waves, resulting in those strange sounds. On the other hand, the present issue of the Voyager 1 being confused about its movements and orientation, according to NASA, is just because of a technical glitch and there is no evidence of alien involvement. NASA thinks that as Voyager 1 has crossed the heliopause and it has been advancing against the plasma for almost a decade, its attitude articulation and system controls AACS might have given up. This system is there to help the antenna of the Voyager 1 to keep it pointing towards the Earth to keep transmitting. But according to the Voyager 1 and 2 missions, current project manager Suzanne Dodd, Voyager 1 is still sending and receiving data without any delay. This means that the high-gain antenna is still pointed towards the Earth, so it most probably means that the AACS system is still working, but like a malfunctioning digital weighing machine, or it could simply be a problem of calibration. After all, the technology on which the Voyager 1 or 2 are running is at least 40 years old, and the only thing that was built to last on these probes was the golden record that we mentioned earlier. This contains 2 hours of music, pictures, and sound recordings for the aliens. It's amazing that these humbly designed probes with limited technologies are still steering through the space after more than 40 years. Despite the malfunctioning that it is experiencing now, Voyager missions have been one of the greatest feats of humanity and a giant leap towards knowing the universe a little better. As of now, the Voyager 1 is over 14.6 billion miles from Earth, and Voyager 2 is around 12.1 billion miles from Earth, and they are still advancing in the uncharted territories of interstellar mediums and the speed of 17 kilometers per second and 15 kilometers per second respectively. They are expected to run out of power by 2025, but as long as these interstellar voyagers would keep advancing in space, it would continue to learn the amazing secrets of the magnificent Milky Way galaxy and the universe as we know it. What would happen if the Voyager 1 keeps going on for 100 more years? What information would it transmit to us? What amazing mysteries would it solve, or what other questions about the universe would it pose? Well, we shall leave that discussion for some other time. We'll see you in the next video.